The combination of inadequate medical facilities and miseducation about disorders in 1950s America pushed Dr. Walter Freeman to the forefront of a revolutionary new movement, psychosurgery. His innovative transorbital approach reduced cost and time, proving to be a successful treatment to mental disabilities and aggressively addressed the lingering issue of maltreatment of the mentally ill. The response to Dr. Freeman's lobotomies had profound implications for the research conducted in brain geography, neuropharmacology, and combat fatigue, as well as influencing peer-reviewed medical research.
Since the beginning of humanity, the brain has been known to be the control center of thought, reason, and emotion. Across the world, the procedure known as trepanning was popular, in which a 2 to 3 centimeter hole was made in the skull to release pressure, thought to be evil spirits, from the brain. Little was known about the specific geography of the brain until a breakthrough came on September 13, 1848, where the peculiar case of a man named Phineas Gage walked away from a traumatic brain injury where a 1.25-inch diameter rod that was over 3 feet long was propelled through Gage's head during an explosion from a railroad accident. Gage spectacularly survived the incident with little overall damage except that he was found to be inappropriate in social settings and generally aggravated as a result of the injury. It was documented that the location of Gage's injury in the prefrontal cortex controlled emotions in humans. This prompted further research on the brain in order to locate which parts of the brain controlled certain functions of our everyday life. Using this information from Gage's accident, along with research performed by Carly Jacobson at Yale University concerning the frontal lobe and its emotional influences on chimpanzees, Dr. Antonio Igas Moniz performed the first leucotomy, later known as the lobotomy, in 1935, in which he severed portions of the prefrontal cortex from the rest of the brain in order to treat mental disabilities. This surgery put into motion on human subjects the idea which first stemmed from Friedrich Gauss, a German researcher, who in 1890 conducted the first trials of using brain surgery as a means for improving mental capabilities that he tested on dogs.
Coming from a lineage of renowned brain surgeons, including his grandfather, who performed the first successful brain tumorectomy, Dr. Walter Freeman was eager to become an innovator in the field of neurosurgery and neurology. Seeing the results from Dr. Moniz's leucotomy and wanting to cure mental disorders in the hostile mental institutions of the United States following World War II, Dr. Freeman brought the controversial procedure over to the United States. He further innovated it with his transorbital approach that would cut down on overall time of the procedure and the use of expensive anesthetics and instruments to lock in the head. Dr. Freeman saw the maltreatment of individuals residing in mental hospitals, and with a large population of veterans moving into these institutions after World War II, Freeman made it his goal to cure mental disorders and advance the field of psychosurgery and brain research altogether so that families who suffered from mental diseases could be reunited as a result of his surgery.
Dr. Freeman's situation was a unique one. Freeman possessed both motivation and an immediate outlet for action. Freeman's hunger for discovery was understandable, given his family history in science. His grandfather's success in the field of neurosurgery was both a source of pride and constant agony for Freeman. Freeman was determined to prove beyond all doubt that he was worthy of his family name. Freeman knew, however, that he wasn't going to earn the title of a pioneer sitting behind a desk in school or by laboring through minor research assignments. As a testament to his remarkable keenness, Freeman recognized an issue that had been largely overlooked by other doctors of the era. Freeman was introduced to the failing health infrastructure of the 1950s and immediately found opportunity.
After extensive research, Freeman decided that mental disorders were not only treatable, but totally reversible. Expanding on previous work, Freeman targeted the prefrontal lobe, the area of the brain associated with emotion. The prefrontal lobe was explored territory, however, and had been examined for years by surgeons. Freeman felt he needed something revolutionary. What Freeman found was an alternative method for entering the brain. The cranium was notoriously hard to navigate and almost impossible to reconstruct after surgery. Always inventive, Freeman proposed a means of conducting an operation that wouldn't require any additional surgery and would cut down on cost and equipment. By driving a pointed stake above the cavity of the patient's eye, Freeman could cleanly access the brain. Freeman was skilled and precise. He operated with attention to the optic nerve and demanded coherence from his patients so as to ensure appropriate brain activity during the operation. Despite the outwardly crude appearance of the procedure, Freeman was producing results, and visible ones at that. The hysteria and disturbance that characterized his patients prior to the operation was long gone, and Freeman concluded that his transorbital approach was successful in around a third of his patients. Freeman was enveloped in a wave of publicity and enjoyed unprecedented fame as he drove his lobotomobile and conducted over 3,500 surgeries between 1935 and 1967 in the United States, acting as a savior to many families. By his own standards, and in the eyes of the media at the time, Freeman's work had been a tremendous success. In Freeman's eyes, he had cured the incurable. However, the majority of his patients never returned to a normal lifestyle and were immobilized as a result of his surgery. Nearly 14% of his surgeries resulted in death. Freeman was considered reckless by the medical community, who watched him time his surgeries and perform them left-handed, appearing to be a game. His use of electroshock therapy to make his patients unconscious for his surgery was also discouraged by other neurologists who believed that this alone could leave permanent damage to the brain. These factors, unsurprisingly, ended his partnership with neurosurgeon Dr. Watts, who observed Freeman beginning to be too out of hand.
Freeman's initial success triggered an overwhelming response from the media, who ate up his 1 in 3 success rate with patients. News articles claimed that Freeman's godlike procedure was, quote, surgery for the soul, unquote. Freeman utilized the fact that it was considered medically taboo and even unethical for a physician to write or speak unfavorably about another physician. Because of the inability of the medical community to publicize all of Freeman's results while he was publicly advertising his transorbital approach to cure mental disease, this has changed. When Dr. Bennett Omalu found evidence concluding that sustained concussions NFL football players suffer from can lead to chronic traumatic encephalopathy. In response, NFL physicians published an article to Dr. Omalu's research where they publicly proclaimed that he should not practice medicine any longer. This significant change in the medical world has allowed the public to know all the information before making a decision with a doctor or procedure. As a result of Freeman's aggressive and reckless lobotomy, appalled physicians tried researching different approaches for correcting mental disorders, chemically with medication, and introduced the use of neuropharmacology to address the mental sickness that Freeman was trying to cure surgically. For example, John Cade in 1949 discovered that lithium was an effective treatment for bipolar depression. Dr. Freeman's transorbital lobotomy brought to light the seriousness of mental disorders that were not well researched, such as combat fatigue, which is now diagnosed as post-traumatic stress disorder and is being better understood every day. Freeman's procedure is considered a colossal failure in many ways, but his shocking approach jump-started research in neuropharmacology, the cause and cure for combat fatigue from veteran soldiers, and an unparalleled commitment to understand the brain and how the specific regions affect human behavior.
Freeman cannot be remembered as a figure that was definitively ethical or moral. Freeman's social conscience allowed him to see the issue with the mentally ill that was largely overlooked at the time, but his hunger for fame drove him to hubris. Long after his license was revoked, Freeman continued to perform his surgeries out of sheer confidence in his practice. Above all, Freeman wanted to rescue his patients from what he thought to be a bestial existence, unfitting of any human. What makes Freeman remarkable, however, was not his sensitivity to the human condition, it was his willingness to go to extreme lengths to fix it. Neurosurgery was an intimidating field, surrounded by a stigma of guesswork and inexperience. Freeman's greatest accomplishment was that he popularized it and made it approachable for surgeons of the future. Freeman risked his reputation and ultimately sacrificed his license for the sake of discovery. Freeman set a standard in the medical community that would allow for virtually infinite research and experimentation from future generations.